Alright, welcome back to my next Mage Milestones video. In this video we're going to be covering our Mage int character at soul level 40. We're going to be looking at the differences between this soul level 40 character versus our soul level 20 character. That includes the stats, it includes equipment, and we're going to also look at some different types of combat strategies. And I want to keep this as new player friendly as possible, so we're going to cover a few things about area progression and just some things to look out for as well while you're progressing with your soul level 40 mage character. So let's get started. I have a lot of things to cover and I don't like to keep these videos very long. So let's start with statistics. So our Vigor at 16 is proving extremely beneficial because it boosts our HP from around the 500-ish range to 772. Pretty substantial boost there of around 250 HP. Definitely helps with taking a few hits. Maybe that's an extra hit or two, depending on who you're fighting, which gives you a pretty good advantage over some other mage characters who just pump up their int at start. Now, why I don't recommend just pumping it up super high at start is because weapons aren't going to be scaling that ridiculously with intelligence at start anyway. So you're not really going to get full advantage of all those stats. Plus, spells do not require high int yet. So, don't really recommend that. That being said, now with this soul level 40 character, yes, we can pump our int up a little higher. We're now at 26. Gives us the ability to use things like Farron Flash Sword, which is a soul level 20, or I'm sorry, an int level 23 required item. We're at Dexterity 18, Strength 13, so now we can use the Sage's Rapier. Attunements 18, so we got 136 FP. Decent amount. Got 3 attunement slots at that number. Pretty decent amount of attunement slots. Gives us some different options in how we want to approach our spell choices. And that pretty much covers all of our stats. I still got Vitality at 7, so I'm using pretty common armor. Only gives me around 16, 18, 15, 14 damage absorption, as you can see up here. Pretty decent magic absorption, but damage absorption from physical damage is not all that high. But, again, we focus some points on Vigor, and that's an extra 20, around actually 50% boost in HP from 500 to 772, so that's a huge boost right there. That helps a lot, having that extra Vigor. Definitely be able to absorb some extra hits. The biggest problem here, statistically, is going to be your endurance, which only gives you 97 stamina. You're going to be you'll still be able to execute some rapid melee attacks, but not as many, and you definitely won't be able to absorb that many hits with your shields. Alright, let's get into some of the equipment that we're using here. So, I've got a Fire Uchigatana plus 3, Crystal Sage's Rapier plus 2, Heretics Staff plus 4, and a target shield. So let's cover all of these items. We'll also covering the armor as well. You can see I'm using Fallen Knight gauntlets and Fallen Knight trousers. Also got the Cleric's blue robe and the Sage's big hat. So these two items, I mainly use them for Fashion Souls purposes. Nothing really other than that. The Fallen Knight items, I'm using them mainly for poise boost. I kind of wanted that extra poise boost just because I don't want to get hit with a rock and then be stunned and can't do anything. So that would kind of suck. As far as rings go, we're looking at the Covetous Silver Serpent Ring and the Young Dragon Ring, which are two items that we've been using previously. New items are the Sage's Ring and the Chloranthy Ring. So this ring here, I really think this ring is important because you're not really going to be able to focus too much on stamina recovery if you're using the target shield. Now you may be asking, well, why don't you just use the grass shield? I could use the grass shield, but keep in mind it weighs a lot more. And on top of that, in theory, the parry frames for that item may not be as high as the target shield. In previous iterations of Dark Souls, certain items had a certain number of parry frames available to you where you could parry your target's attack. Now by parry frames, what I'm talking about is actually the animation frames where the attack can be parried if the attack hits you in that proper frame range. So some items have lower frames or higher frames than others, and in Dark Souls 2, for example, the target shield had pretty high parry frames, definitely above average. If I remember correctly, it was somewhere along the lines of a 5-frame startup time. So that's the time where he takes to get his parry shield ready to swing. So you press the button, the shield gets ready to swing, and then he finally swings the parry shield to the side to parry the attack. And then the parry window then becomes that 5 frames and on. So, and I believe the max value there was around 14 frames, where compared to most shields, it was around 10. So that was a pretty significant difference in parry frames, which is why in Dark Souls 2 you would want to go with the target shield as a parry item. So keep that in mind, that although there hasn't been a specific analysis yet on parry frames, that is why I chose the target shield. I have had pretty good luck with the parry shield and its ability to parry attacks. On top of that, you get your stamina regen with the Chloranthy ring. It definitely helps stamina out a lot. You can do a test yourself. Just start rolling around, getting your stamina to 0, and see the comparison with the ring off versus on. The other ring we're going to look at is the Sage's ring. Now the Sage's ring, from my testing, is actually a really cool ring because it almost doubles the speed of your casting. So it decreases casting speed by 50%. I've tested this in other videos actually, and I've tested it with other spells, but it's usually around 50%. The Great Heavy Soul Arrow takes around 4 seconds to cast. With this, it takes around 2 seconds. So definitely a significant increase. Now, in theory, you don't really need this item. It's not definitely a requirement. But again, that depends on how you're building this character and what you're gearing him for. So, do you want to focus on combat magic, be able to cast a spell quickly? Or do you want to be able to cast a spell longer and do more damage? Maybe put on another ring. We don't have any other rings yet that deal damage, but there are out there, like the Magic Clutch Ring or something like that, that would increase magic damage. So you'd go for slower casting speed, but higher damage. That might be more ideal for range class spells at dealing with PvE fights, or maybe support level type magic for PvP fights. So keep that in mind. Always keep in mind the class of magics you want to specialize in for the typical philosophy of combat you want to engage in with your character. So that's always a key point. If you're not really 100% sure exactly what I'm talking about, I do recommend you watch my other video on combat strategies and concepts for mages. I think it stresses a lot how complex mage builds are and the complexities of coming up with some type of usage strategy that you want to gear your mage towards. So you always want to focus on that strategy when you're coming up with items, builds, and stats. So that's why I'm using the Sage's ring for this particular build. Other than that, that pretty much covers new types of wearable rings. We also have the Sage's Rapier that boosts your item discovery. And overall, the stat differences between damages between the Rapier +2 and the Fire Uchigatana +3 are about 10 damage or so, not much. It scales pretty well. Sage's Rapier, that is. Now, you are going to want to use the Fire Uchigatana at +3. You're probably wondering, well, if I want to use the Sage's Rapier, why even bother with the Fire Uchigatana? Well, you're going to want to deal with that issue in this Soul Level 40 build, simply because you're going to have to go through Farron's Keep and the dark Shitsmear forest poison area. And in the Shitsmear area, everything is weak to fire. So if everything's weak to fire, use a fire weapon. You know, it definitely will help you out a lot. A lot of the enemies are stunned by the fire. You know, they take more damage with fire. I definitely recommend using the Fire Uchigatana +3 for that area instead of the Sage's Rapier. You'll have way more success in PvE. Alright, so that pretty much covers all of our items. I'm going to roll in some other interesting tidbits about this Soul Level 40 character and some of the things you're going to want to deal with in this particular area. So one of the NPCs you're going to want to get early on in the Undead Settlement, you should actually start right up here on top of this wall. You want to come down here, talk to this guy. I'm sure you've probably already done this, but just for the sake of completion or new players who might have missed this. He'll be right here and he'll ask you some questions if you want to help him out. He'll look like just like one of these guys. And basically, you say yes and bring him back to your shrine. And what he'll do is he'll give you 5 free levels and basically give you the dark sign of the undead. He'll put it on you, which is really interesting. Okay, and that in turn means that every time you die, you gain hollowing, which you can see here. Kind of an interesting stat. Not quite sure what it does besides make your character look terrible, but, you know, who knows at this point. I'm not really quite sure. But this guy, he's going to die after he levels you up 5 times, and what you can do is you can just kill yourself, and every 2 times you kill yourself, you come here and you get a free level. Then he'll die and this bitch will appear. You can buy spells from her. You can buy this Dark Hand. It's a type of shield. Okay, it's like a magic shield type thing. It's kind of, you can see one of the cool things about it is its magic damage absorption is pretty high. It also gives you some rings here, and you can buy a Purging Stone. Reduces undead curse buildup and cures hollowing, which is interesting. Haven't really screwed around with that much, but you can cure this whole hollowing thing after you get your 5 levels if you buy this key, the tower key, and go in the back and get the fire, the Shrine Maiden Soul or whatever you call it, and give it to this bitch here, and she'll cure your hollowing after by giving you, I don't know. She just basically cures it. You just pay her some souls and she'll cure it. But keep in mind that if you do cure your hollowing, that bitch over there will get pissed off and leave. So, the bitch who came after that guy died, the bitch down here, she'll just frickin' leave. So, just keep that in mind. Just another interesting tidbit for this Soul Level 40 playthrough. When you get to this area where the giant's throwing spears, you're going to get Mordekin's ashes. You're going to want to make sure you pick those up, because you can give these ashes to the old hag, and she will be able to sell you more items. In addition to that, you'll see it in the background right here. There's a bone shard in the back there on that little ledge, so make sure you get that. Now, down through this wall, right here, there's, against the wall, there's going to be the Heretics Staff. Now, the Heretics Staff, compared to all the other staffs, actually seems to have the best starting spell buff ability to start with. Like, it actually, its innate spell buff is 119, so it's pretty strong compared to other staffs. So definitely, that's the staff I'm mainly going to be using, because it actually increases in power as you level it up. Now, here at the tower, in the Farron's Keep area, or the Farron area, the Shitsmere area, you can actually use this tower to look around the area and see which flames you haven't put out yet. So that's pretty awesome if you're lost and you're not sure where you need to go. In addition to that, if you walk up these, take the ladder or take the elevator upstairs and walk up these stairs here, you will be able to see this monster in the background. Now, this guy, after you defeat him, you'll come up to the this gate, and if you take a right at this gate, okay, right over here, you'll come to this little path that you can fall down on. And this gives you access to an area that has a bunch of crystal lizards and the lightning spear. So pretty useful to get. And then you come to the whole reason why we chose to go, or I should say I chose to go, the Farron's Keep and do all this nonsense in the first place instead of going to the chapel first. And that is mainly to kill this crystal wizard up here and get 2 scales. So you want to get these 2 scales as quickly as you can so you can upgrade your rapier as quickly as you can. And therefore make it an even more viable weapon as quickly as you can. So that's the whole reason why I chose to go here first, instead of choosing to go to the chapel, is just to upgrade this weapon. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Mage Milestones. There'll be more to come, I promise. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.